So you've written a screenplay and you think it's good, but you're not quite sure what to do next, or if you're really finished. And you might have some questions like, how do you know when you're done? Should you pay for advice on your script? How can you get your script in front of people for consideration? If your script is awesome and you sell it, how much money would you expect to make? How do you get an agent? And I get why you're asking these questions, but a few of them are actually the wrong question. How do you know when you're done with your screenplay? Well, the short answer is you're never done until the movie comes out or until you get fired from the film. Otherwise, it's never done. Screenplays are blueprints for films, and blueprints change. They're not the film themselves. So the question you should be asking is not, am I done with the script? But one of these other two questions. Is this script better than the previous draft? And the second question, is this script industry ready? The problem is those two questions imply, though, that you understand a few things. It implies you understand what actually makes one draft better than another, and it implies that you understand what an industry ready script actually means. But here's the upside, okay? The more you write, the better you get. So if you're just going it on your own and you write and write and write and write, at some point, you'll read stuff that you have written previously because you're gonna be writing, you're gonna reread something, and you're gonna think, this stuff I wrote before is really bad. And that's because you're beginning to hone the craft, you're getting better. And if you want to significantly get better in a shorter amount of time, okay, what you have to do is you gotta do some focused work. Take a class, work with a coach or a mentor or something like that. And all those things do is just shorten the time it takes for you to move from where you are to where you want to be. So you can go it on your own and you will get there over a longer time, or you can get some focused help and do it over a shorter time. But over time, whichever way you go, you get to the point that you recognize what makes one draft of a screenplay better than another. But whether a script is industry ready, well, there's a lot of moving parts to this one. Things like budgets and talent, okay, both in front of and behind the camera talent, and egos, and navigating the Hollywood system, and a host of other things that you need to be aware of when you're writing your screenplay. Can you learn those things? Well, yeah, but not in a vacuum, not all by your little self in the closet of a room where you write. You have to find ways to be engaged in screenwriting communities, and most importantly, you have to approach those experiences with a willingness to learn. I meet a lot of new writers who think they know everything and they have the next blockbuster film. And confidence is fine. Arrogance is not. And you have to learn the difference between the two. And you have to learn what makes a script industry ready. And it's not just having a good story and telling it well. It's having the right story at the right time that would attract money and talent and studios and all the pieces you need to make a film. So you have to write not a film that can be shot, but a film that can be sold. But Jake, when do I stop revising and start sending it out? Well, honestly, that's up to you, but it still comes back to those two questions that you should be asking. Is the script better than the previous draft? Is the script industry ready? Because if you have a script and you know you can make it better, okay, you're not done with it. If you have a script and you know it's not industry ready because it won't attract movie stars or because your main character is too flat and boring, you're not done with it. So if you can improve it, you're not done. If you can't improve it anymore, then you might be done. But Jake, what if I know it's not as good as it can be, but I don't know how to make it better? Well, that gets into our second question. Should you get paid advice on your script, like hiring a consultant or paying for coverage? Screenwriters at all levels use consultants and coverage services, but here's what I've found to be most helpful and most effective. Coverage, this is where someone reads your script, they provide written feedback on it, what is and isn't working, things like that, is best for writers in two circumstances. First are writers who aren't sure where their skill level is at as a writer. So typically this applies to newer writers figuring out if they want to pursue screenwriting, or do they have what it takes? I wrote this script, how good is it? I think it's good. Where does it really fall? So this is one group. The second group are writers who have a script they feel is ready for the market and they just want an impartial opinion to verify their thoughts are true. This one's still for newer writers though, because experienced writers are gonna know if their script is market ready or not, and they know how to get it there on their own. A script consultant, though, someone who has a conversation with the writer, talks through changes and suggestions based on what the writer wants to focus on, is best for writers who are in the intermediate stage of the craft. They've written a few scripts, they know their stuff isn't industry ready yet, but they aren't sure what things they need to be working on, or even like how the process works. I want to get better at the process. I want to improve my craft. In other words, coverage is more of a report about your screenplay, and consulting is more like a one-time, one-on-one coaching session to help you both improve your story and improve in the craft. And most writers, especially those who do not have personal relationships with other screenwriters or other people in the industry, or even people who don't live here in LA and aren't able to take advantage of that, they take advantage of both of these paid services at some point in their career. Most writers have done one or both of these. And it can be extremely helpful to get some outside opinions on your work. But please don't just hire someone based on the price they charge because it just fits your budget, or on some factor that won't help you. You must know what you want out of the service before you engage in it, and then go and find that service. And if you aren't going to get out of it what you want, you shouldn't pay for it. A few quick tips here about consultants. I mean, there are some great script consultants and coverage services out there, and there's plenty of not so great ones. So do your homework. Ask them questions. If they don't have the answers you want, go somewhere else. One mistake a lot of new screenwriters make is they think they should be hiring a consultant who's had a few movies produced just because they've had a few movies produced. And the reality is, just because you can do the craft doesn't mean you can teach it effectively or that you know how to help others learn. Many consultants will just tell you what they think you should do to fix your screenplay. And if you go to 2 or 3 different consultants who do this, you're going to get 2 or 3 different opinions about how you should fix your screenplay. And then you're stuck because you aren't sure who to listen to. And I get it. It's hard to sort out opinions about what's working and what's not. So my best advice, do your homework. If the consultant you are interested in hiring doesn't want to talk with you about how they will work with you, or if they don't answer your questions, go somewhere else. And let me also be clear, consultants are not gatekeepers to the industry. They can't greenlight your film or get your film in front of anybody. They can't do that. They can't cut you a check, nothing like that. They are just there to help you improve in the craft and improve your script. But that gets us to the next question. How can you get your script in front of people for consideration? This is the question every writer has at some point. And sadly, there is no magic formula. I wish there was, but there's not. In reality, there's a lot of ways, though, to get your script into the hands of the right people. But it's hard to get it there because of this one big reason. Too many new writers think their script is ready for sale when it's actually a piece of junk. Now, I'm sorry, but that's the reality. Everyone thinks they have the next best great idea. I'm sorry, that's not true. And the reason it's hard for you to get your script into the hands of decision makers is because 97 other people who think their script is awesome are also trying to get it into the hands of those same decision makers. But the decision makers know that if they make access to them too easy, they will be inundated with horrible scripts, which is a waste of their time. And Hollywood is a business. Time is money, and they don't want to waste their time, so they make it seemingly hard to get to. But in reality, like the little dirty secret, they're not hard to get to. You can get a query to nearly anyone, not everyone, but many people. They are looking for good stories. I mean, Hollywood isn't a business of good stories. They have to be able to be reading new scripts. They want the material, but they just don't want to waste their time. So they make it difficult, but not impossible. Because if it's difficult, the people who are not very committed to the craft, they're going to give up anyway, and their scripts are probably bad. But if you are committed, they know that you will find a way to get your script to them. They know you'll do the research and know which production companies produce films similar to the type of film you're trying to market and in a similar budget. And after some research and tools that, yes, you will more than likely have to pay some money for, because this is a business, and as a screenwriter, you are an entrepreneur. You'll have to invest some of your own money at some point for something, for a few things. Once you kind of get the information and get access to some of this information, you're going to be able to find contact information for query letters. You'll be able to find out which production companies are looking for World War II epics, and you just happen to have one. So you can find their contact information and query them at just the right time. You don't have to know people, and you don't even have to know people who know people. You do have to have a solid story. You have to tell it well. It has to be a story that is marketable and would attract top-tier talent, and you have to act and behave like a professional. And if you can do that, you're going to be able to find your way, and you'll be able to find a way to get your script to the people who need to be reading your script. And if, after all I just said, even if you rewind and play it back again, you still don't understand what I'm talking about, and I'm just being candid here because I really want to speak truth and help aspiring screenwriters out. If you don't know at this point how you can possibly get your script in front of decision makers, your skill level is probably not there yet anyway. And that's okay. Every professional screenwriter was at one time exactly where you're at, so you're in good company. But learn the craft. Get better at the craft. The more you dive into it, the better you'll get, and the more discerning you'll be about finding and locating the information you need to get your script in front of the people that you want to get it in front of. But let's say you've gotten your script in front of the right people and they buy it. So if you sell your script, how much money would you expect to make? It depends primarily on one factor. There's a few others, but it kind of comes down to this one. Did you sell it to a WGA signatory company or not? If they are a signatory of the WGA, then they must pay you WGA minimums at minimum, which as of producing this video will be in the $40,000 to $80,000 range, depending on what is being bought. And if it's your first WGA sale, you are pretty much going to be getting the minimums, unless you've got such a great script that people are bidding on it and fighting over it. Otherwise, it's probably going to be the minimums. If it's a non-WGA sale, perhaps you sell it internationally or to a non-WGA signatory, it's probably going to be for less money, maybe a lot less. Now, it may not be, but more than likely it will be for less than the WGA minimums. And don't forget about taxes, which will end up being about 40% here in the US. It doesn't matter where you live, might be slightly higher, might be slightly less, but it's going to be around there. And if you have representation, they take 10% right off the top. So even if you sell a script for around $80,000, which is the higher end on the minimums, you might only end up with about $30,000 in your bank account. So don't be quitting your day job until you have multiple projects rolling in. But your second script, your third, especially if the first one is produced and does well at the box office, you can expect a higher pay. And you'll probably be asked to pitch on other projects or rewrite a project or be hired on to write a different project because the original writer was being an idiot and got fired from it. So selling one script won't make you a lot of money, but it could lead to a great screenwriting career if you keep your head on straight. The last question is one many new writers ask. I get it all the time. How do you get an agent? Now, before I get to that, if you're finding value, please hit some buttons below, comment about what's been helpful, or if you have other questions I can answer, drop those in the comments below. Doing all those things helps support me and this channel, it helps others find it. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to support me directly, you can do that through Patreon. There's a link below for that. I ultimately just want to help you become a better screenwriter, and if I can do that, please let me know. So send me an email, ask any question you like, and there's also links below that might be helpful to you, so be sure to check those out. So how do you get an agent? Well, the short answer is you don't. At least not until you have a script that's generating heat. In other words, people are talking about it and wanting to read it. They're passing it around. It's like a hot potato. It's hot. A key point to realize about agents, though, is they don't build careers. They cultivate careers. So they aren't interested in a new screenwriter who hasn't sold anything and has no career. They're interested in a screenwriter who knows what's what, who has written some things that people like, and the agent knows that they can get paid as a result of their relationship with the writer. They only make money if you make money, and they need to know that you can make money before they want to enter into a relationship with you. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have sold something to get an agent, but it does mean you have to have a script that could sell. It does mean you have to be adept enough at the craft of screenwriting that you can replicate excellent writing on demand, and you know how to carry yourself in a room with other professionals, even if that room is virtual. So if you haven't been a semi-finalist or finalist in a top-tier competition, if you've not had several people request to read your screenplay and you've gotten meetings as a result of those requests, so not only did they ask to read it, they also wanted to meet with you. So if you haven't done that, and if you don't have any produced credits, okay, you're just wasting your time trying to find an agent. Instead, focus on writing a great screenplay. Tell a fantastic story. Write one the market would be interested in buying. And when the fish start biting, that's when you reach out to an agent. Or you might have an agent reach out to you, which is often how it happens. They get a hold of a hot script, it's being passed around, they read it, they like it, they will reach out to you. So keep writing, work at the craft, and if on the scale of novice to master screenwriters, you're just not sure where you're at on that scale, this video might help you. Please don't forget about all the fun buttons and links below if you'd like my help in your own story and storytelling endeavors. And when you tell a story that matters. See you later.